The legend of humanity's demise. In ancient Egypt, where every ray of sunshine counts, the god Ra, the source of life and hope, begins to fade. His light is fading, and the people sense the approach of disaster. In an atmosphere of fear and despair, rebellion is born. A group of daredevils, led by the young and ambitious warrior Amenhotep, decides to do the impossible, to seize the sacred temple of Ra and overthrow the old god. But a fierce struggle awaits them against the temple's powerful defenders, such as Thoth and Hathor. Each step brings them closer to the final battle, where the fate of mankind will be decided. Can the rebels prevail, or will a tragic defeat await them? Long ago, when the world was still young and people were just beginning to comprehend the meaning of existence, Egypt was under the rule of the great god Ra. He was the embodiment of the sun, giving light and warmth to all living things. Every morning Ra rose in the east like a golden ball, painting the sky with the bright colors of sunrise. His rays touched the earth, awakening nature and filling it with life. Day after day it illuminated fields, towns and villages, warming the hearts of people and giving them hope for a new day. In the evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ra went westward, giving way to the darkness of night. The sky was covered with stars and the moon softly illuminated the earth, allowing people to rest and recuperate. Night was a time of rest and reflection, when people thanked Ra for the past day and prayed for a new morning. People worshipped Ra, believing him to be the source of life and prosperity. They built temples in his honor, made sacrifices, and held ceremonies to express their gratitude and reverence. Ra was not just a god to them, but a father and protector to sustain them. As time went on, however, people began to notice that Ra was growing old. His face, once smooth and radiant, was covered with deep wrinkles, a testament to the years he had spent in service to the world. His steps grew slower, and he no longer climbed as high as he once did. The light he brought had lost its former brightness, becoming dimmer and less intense. The people began to worry, for without a strong and young son, their lives could change for the worse. Fields could cease to bear fruit, rivers could dry up, and animals could fall ill. It was whispered that the god was tired and could no longer fulfill his duties properly. Some even began to doubt his power and might. This was felt especially strongly in winter, when the days grew shorter and the nights longer. The cold crept into homes, and people trembled with fear that Ra might walk off into the sunset forever, leaving them at the mercy of eternal darkness. Young people, full of energy and ambition, began to wonder if there was no other way to keep the light and warmth alive. Whispers and rumors spread through towns and villages, penetrating to the remotest corners of the country. There was tension and anxiety in the air. People felt that something had to change, but no one knew what the next step would be. That's when the idea of rebellion was born. One day, a group of brave men decided to stand up to Ra. They believed it was time to replace the old god with a new, more energetic, and powerful one. Inspired by the desire to change the fate of their country, they looked for a leader who could lead their movement. And such a leader was found. He was a young and ambitious warrior named Amenhotep. He was the son of a noble warlord and from childhood was characterized by outstanding physical data and sharp mind. Amenhotep grew up watching his country slowly fade with Ra and decided it was time to take action. He was confident that he was capable of taking on the role of the sun and leading the country to prosperity. His confidence and charisma attracted many supporters to him. People, tired of fear and uncertainty, longed for change and saw Amenhotep as someone who could make their dreams come true. Amenhotep gathered around him the bravest and most determined warriors, peasants, artisans, and even some priests who were dissatisfied with the current state of affairs. Together they devised a plan to seize the sacred temple of Ra and force him to hand over his powers to the new god. They knew it would not be an easy task. The temple of Ra was not just a religious center, but a fortress guarded by powerful protectors. Among them were such famous gods as Thoth, the god of wisdom and knowledge, and Hathor, the goddess of love and beauty. These gods possessed incredible power and expertise, and anyone who dared to challenge them risked their lives. However, Amenhotep and his supporters were determined. They believed that their cause was just and that fate was on their side. They spent weeks strategizing and training to be ready for any turn of events. They studied the temple's weaknesses, looked for ways to bypass the guards, and prepared for a possible encounter with Ra himself. Their plan was simple but audacious. They were going to enter the temple at night, when most of the guards would be asleep, and seize control of the central hall, where Ra's throne was usually located. There they intended to make their demands and force the god to hand over his powers to Amenhotep. The rebels knew that the success of their mission depended on speed and surprise. They hoped they could seize the moment before Ra and his defenders had time to react. After all, the longer they stayed inside the temple, the more likely they would be discovered and stopped. The decisive moment had come. The night was dark and quiet, perfect for carrying out their plan. Amenhotep and his men gathered at the temple walls, ready for action. Amenhotep raised his hand, signaling to his men. The battle began suddenly as the rebels entered the temple of Ra. The darkness of night enveloped everything around, creating an atmosphere of mystery and tension. The temple was huge and majestic, its walls decorated with ancient frescoes telling about the deeds of gods and great events of the past. Inside the temple there were statues of various deities guarding the peace of Ra. Sensing the approach of danger, immediately summoned his assistants. The first to respond was Thoth, the god of wisdom and knowledge. He appeared from the shadows, holding a scroll with magic spells. His eyes burned brightly, and his voice sounded confident and commanding. "We must protect our lord," declared the Thoth. "The rebels must not reach their target." Following Thoth came the other gods. Hathor, the goddess of love and beauty, took over the defense of the eastern gate of the temple. Her face was calm, but there was determination in her eyes. She knew that her strength and beauty could be a weapon in this battle. Batet, goddess of cats and war, took her position at the western gate. Her supple body was ready for battle and her claws glistened in the light of the moon. She was ready to defend the temple to her last breath. Sekhmet, the goddess of war and healing, stood at the northern gate. Her gaze was stern and her hands clenched her weapons. She knew that victory depended on every blow, every drop of blood. Finally, Anubis, god of the dead and funeral rites, took up position at the southern gate. His black figure merged with the shadows, creating a sense of the presence of death itself. As the rebels approached the temple, they encountered their first obstacle, a magical shield created by Thoth. The shield was invisible but impenetrable, and no one could pass through it without permission. Amenhotep, who led the rebels, tried to break through the shield by force, but was unsuccessful. Then he ordered his men to retreat and regroup. They decided to attack simultaneously from all sides, counting on numerical advantage. The first blow came at the northern gate, where Sekhmet stood. The rebels rushed forward, armed with spears and swords. Sekhmet met them with a hail of arrows fired from her bow. Each arrow found its target, piercing the hearts of the enemies. Those who survived were forced to retreat, leaving behind the bodies of their comrades. To the south, Anubis waited for his opponents. As soon as they came close, he released black smoke from his hands, which enveloped the rebels, depriving them of sight and orientation. He then stepped out of the shadows and began to methodically destroy his enemies using his mastery of the martial arts. To the east, Hathor used her beauty and charm to lure the rebels into a trap. She would smile at them, promising wealth and glory, but as soon as they got close enough, she would transform into a fearsome lioness and tear them apart. In the west, Batet leapt straight into the thick of the battle, her claws tearing flesh and her teeth biting the enemy. She moved swiftly and silently like a cat, circling her foes from behind and striking where they least expected it. In the center of the temple, Thoth continued to recite spells, strengthening the defenses and weakening the rebel forces. His voice echoed through the halls, causing fear and trepidation in the attackers. Ra, watching what was happening, felt proud of his assistants. He saw them selflessly defending him and the temple. At this point he decided to intervene personally. With a wave of his hand, he summoned a ring of fire that surrounded the rebels, cutting off their escape. Amenhotep, realizing that defeat was inevitable, tried to flee, but was stopped by Thoth. Thoth grabbed his arm and spoke a single word that paralyzed the rebel leader. Amenhotep fell to his knees, realizing that his dream of power was shattered. The rest of the rebels, seeing the fall of their leader, lost the will to fight. They dropped their weapons and surrendered to the mercy of the gods. Ra, standing in the middle of the temple, looked at them with sadness and disappointment. He knew their actions were due to fear and uncertainty, but that did not justify the attempt to seize power. After the battle was over, Ra ordered the release of Amenhotep and the rest of the rebels. He did not want revenge, but he made it clear that such attempts would never go unpunished. The people of Egypt had to remember that the gods always stand for order and justice. After the suppression of the rebellion, Ra thought deeply about what had led to such a daring rebellion. He realized that the people of Egypt were worried about the future, seeing their strength weakening with age. Although he remained a great and all-powerful god, Ra knew that change was inevitable. So he decided to convene a council of the gods to discuss the next steps and increase stability in the world. The council was held in the heart of Ra's temple, in a great hall decorated with golden statues and jewels. The gods gathered around a huge table on which lay an ancient scroll with predictions. Ra opened the meeting by addressing all those present. "My friends, today we face a grave challenge. The rebels wanted to overthrow me because they see my weakness. But I do not want our subjects to suffer uncertainty. We need to make a decision that will secure Egypt's future and prevent such rebellions." The gods listened attentively to Ra, realizing the importance of the moment. Among them were old and young, experienced and inexperienced, but all of them respected Ra's wisdom and authority. The first to speak was Thoth, the god of wisdom and knowledge. "O great Ra, your wisdom is undeniable. You have always been our leader and mentor. But perhaps it is time to share your responsibilities with those who are younger and stronger. Let them help you carry the burden of ruling the world." His suggestion drew approval among those gathered. Many of the gods realized that times demanded change and were ready to support Thoth's idea. Then Horus, son of Osiris and Isis, the young and strong god of the sky, spoke, "I am ready to take charge of the daytime sky, my father. My strength and energy will enable me to maintain order and ensure the safety of our subjects." Isis, the sister and consort of Osiris, also expressed her willingness to help. "I will take charge of the night, my brother. My experience and knowledge will help me control the moonlight and the stars, providing calm and protection during the dark hours." Ra listened attentively to the suggestions of his children and companions. He saw in their words reasonableness and understanding of the situation. Having made his decision, he addressed the assembly. "It is thus decided. Horus will take charge of the day sky, and Isis will be the patroness of the night. I will remain the supreme god, but I will rely on your support and assistance. Together we can bring stability and prosperity to our people." All the gods unanimously supported Ra's decision. They realized that this division of duties would preserve balance and harmony in the world. Horus and Isis immediately began to fulfill their new roles with diligence and responsibility. Horus made sure that the sun rose on time and illuminated the earth, giving life to plants and animals. Isis controlled the movement of the moon and stars, ensuring peace and rest for the inhabitants of the earth. Her gentleness and caring helped create comfort and safety during the dark hours. Ra continued to be the chief god, controlling the general course of events. He consulted with Horus and Isis, making important decisions and directing their actions. The people of Egypt gradually calmed down, seeing that change had taken place and life had returned to normal. Gradually their fears and doubts dissipated. They continued to worship Ra, but now knew that he had strong support. As time passed, the memory of the rebellion gradually faded from the minds of the people, leaving only tales and legends passed from mouth to mouth.